Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. The podcast that you know. Deuce and Mo.
Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know.
Do it for Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. Hey. Do it for Deuce and Mo. When it comes to the Kings, it's my favorite show. Do it for Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. Hey. Do it for Deuce and Mo. When it comes to the Kings, big hopes and dreams as we cover our kings. Never cover the kingdom, but we loving our kings. And we covered your prayers as we doing our thing. Big Deuce with the pod, Lil Mo on the screen. Solo or together, still do it for team. Never switch up for $1 or revenue stream. So we always got each other, balance out the beam. Deuce and Mo, and that's the
end of the thing song.
Do it for Deuce and Mo.
We are live!
Happy Wednesday. Interesting start to the day.
What?
I'm really curious what the chat would think about this. When Morgan says, quote, so when are you getting a haircut?
Oh my God. Oh wait, I know.
What up, Deuce?
Hey, how you doing, man? Just dealing with some stuff right now.
Hey, Morgan.
Hi.
Yeah?
I'm rooting for y'all.
What did you say before that? Why don't you let them all know?
All I said to Morgan, because she loves, as you guys know, who come in early before the podcast actually starts, she loves to adjust the camera after the live feed starts, not before. So I said,
Yeah, what'd you say?
go check the camera. That's it. That's it. That's all I did. And so minutes later, I mean, it must have been 10 minutes goes by. So are you getting a haircut then? Are you getting a haircut soon?
It was my my insult back. So wait, what? No, so when's your next haircut?
Maybe next week.
You take a lot of offense to it.
It's just a weird thing to say to someone. If I came up to you and said something
It's
about
obviously I'm insulting you and trying to hurt your feelings, which I did.
When are you getting your brows done?
Friday.
Yeah, good. When are you getting your lashes done?
I'm not. These are going to be my normal lashes, and I'll put some strips on to save some money.
Patchy as F.
Either way, look how you... He called me a name, and so then I just was like, you know, I'll let it go, let time go by and go, when's your next haircut? Just to be an ass. Just to be an ass. And it obviously got you where it hurt, but then, like, you're just tossing out things now left and right.
I just asked the chat for a quick, like, hey, breakdown. How do you guys feel about that?
So
did Morgan,
what do people feel about that?
Is that offensive? Did Morgan go too far and just, I don't know, taking a shot at me for no apparent reason? Let us know in the chat. We're going to have a fun podcast.
Oh, we do.
Today, for sure.
We do.
The Dissect podcast is awesome. And I hate to say I wasn't aware of it until, like, last year during Night Chat.
Yeah.
When the host, Cole, was listening on Twitter Spaces. And then we became aware, oh, he's a Kings fan. He's from Sacramento. I checked out his podcast. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. He breaks down albums. He'll take in artists and break down the whole album song by song. It's
incredible.
The amount of work that goes into this is just incredible. So anyway, we're going to catch up with him today. He's a big Kings fan too. So we'll talk some Kings with him. We want to go over like 3 wishes for the upcoming Kings season or NBA season.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think all of ours are going to be Kings related because, you know, he's Kings fan from Sacramento and everything. So excited to talk to him about that. But it is interesting too, because I always tell people like, oh, I'm not a music person. I'm not much of a music person, whatever. It his podcast just suck you in, and then you all of a sudden feel like you are this music person analyzing this song with him and being like, oh yeah, I did notice that. So anyway, he's just incredible at what he does, and on top of all that, he's a Kings fan, so I'm super excited to have him on.
And he's part of the Ringer family now.
Yes.
Last Song Standing is another podcast. He's a project he's been working
We'll
on
talk
too.
about
So
that.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. I like the fact that you got some Kings reps at the. I know he's not doing Kings related things at the Ringer, but it's so cool.
No, it's so it's so cool seeing podcasters from Sacramento do what they love and then end up just, growing bigger and bigger, ending up on the Ringer, wherever the hell. It's really cool to see. And it's funny because the first time that we ever met him in person was at a coffee shop, and it was, by accident, I guess you could say. And then we all just talked for a few minutes. So we did get to meet in person at one point too.
Blue Velvet in the chat. Before we get to the podcast, I think this is a fair request.
Yeah.
I would love to hear either Deuce and Mo or Mo say something loving and positive to each other just for fun. I want to see if they can do it.
We do.
With love.
We do. We always
Go ahead,
compliment
Mo.
each other. How about you start things off so then I get the vibe of what tier of compliment we're going for?
I'm sorry. Your compliment depends on what I say.
Correct. Because if I compliment first, we all have seen this before where then I get some petty ass compliment back like, oh, your hair looks good. And it's like, no, it does. It's greasy and
It
dry.
is,
yeah.
A genuine compliment. Get back to.
Come on, dude. That's not hard.
Well, then you go first.
You go first. Set the tone.
Why do I?
What tier of compliment are we going for today? Let's hear it.
I don't know. I kind of want to give you a backhanded one,
Exactly. This is why he's going first. This is why.
Mo is a great basketball player. Okay, are we telling jokes today, Leezy? Like, what are we doing here? Used to be a solid basketball player. That's my compliment. He used to be a solid basketball player.
What is this? What is this?
Morgan, I'll say this as a compliment. I like your passion for the pod. Is that as generic as it gets?
We share equal passion for the pod, so I love your passion for the podcast too, Deuce. That's bad. Really? There's nothing else?
I just, to be honest, I'm just not in the right mood to give you a compliment. I just can't today. It's not, I don't have it in me. There's nothing that's going to trigger this. All right, let's not mess around. Wow, it's 10:07. Deuce and Mo, coming down. 3, 2, 1. Hit my music.
Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. The podcast that you know.
Hey, welcome into the Deuce and Mo podcast on a Wednesday. We are recording this, and it's going to be a lot of fun today. We're going to have a really cool conversation. One of the best podcasts in the world is the Dissect Podcast.
Ooh.
And how about this? Did you know the creator and host of that podcast? Sacramento native.
Yeah.
A Kings fan.
Yep.
We're going to talk to him about his journey, his podcasts. He has multiple now.
Yeah.
I just think it would be a really cool conversation to talk to someone who I think is extremely talented. Plus, we'll have our 3 wishes for the upcoming Kings season. I'm Deuce. That's Mo. We just wrapped up a pre-show where someone in the chat was challenging us to compliment each other. And I think that lasted about 5 minutes. And it wasn't because we were throwing compliments, back and forth like we're playing toss. Hey, go! I got another one for you. It's because we struggled. And that's kind of where the tone of the podcast is today, is we're just kind of in this weird vibes. Well, it all started with what you said before the podcast, and we don't have to get into it.
No,
just
we
that,
don't. And he's getting it.
Oh, I got a question, Deuce. Yeah, Morgan, what's up, man? Anything you need. It's before the pod. Let's talk. You want to vibe? When are you getting a haircut? Oh, wow. Okay, that was hurtful. But we moved on from it, and here we are on the pod. Happy Wednesday, everybody.
You're so lucky I don't tell everyone what happened before that moment.
I told the pre-show what happened.
No, you didn't.
I did.
You bleeped out what you said. What you called me.
I don't control the buttons or the sensors on the podcast.
Anyway, so I insulted him back with that question, and then now it just hasn't stopped for 30 minutes. But you know, it's all good because I'm so glad today that we have someone to talk to so we don't have to do this for an entire podcast. And what I love in the beginning of this podcast, you dropped one of the best podcasts in the world. And I love that you say that so confidently because I feel the same with something just so well put together and produced the way that it is by Cole. He just does such a fantastic job. I'm excited for him to come on.
Yeah, and I guess to that point, before he gets on, we should share this. This is from his TikTok, and this is just like a small snippet of what you could get from his podcast. This is one he did on his newest podcast, as heard in Last Song Standing, on the Dissect podcast feed, breaking down Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar's Mad City
Fresh out of school, 'cause I was a high school grad.
is an encyclopedia of hip-hop history. The line we just heard is an homage to Ice Cube's 1990 song A Bird in the Hand.
Fresh out of school, 'cause I was a high school grad.
If this beat sounds familiar, it's because it is. Mad City's beat is actually a modern remake of A Bird in the Hand. Both tracks sample their drums from this song by the Five Stair Steps, and both sample the same passage of B.B. King's Chains and Things. A Bird in the Hand is also referenced by Mad City's feature MC8, another 90s Compton rapper.
I'm a strap in the hand and a bird 10 grands.
MC8 also references Regulate by West Coast rapper Warren G,
Mount up, regulators in the whip.
as well as his own song from Menace to Society, a movie.
So you get the point of what you can expect when you listen to the Dissect podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
He dissects it.
yeah, and it actually, makes you appreciate music even more for me. As now,
Same.
I feel weird even talking because I'm a casual.
Yes.
I'm a
I
music
am
casual.
too. I couldn't tell you so many different things, so many different artists and songs and where this came from. And I mean, I didn't go to school for it either. I think Cole did a
Yes.
little bit more and understands music, history of music, and just like all these other things that I obviously don't even know the terminology to. But yes, it made me appreciate the music that I do know and that I do love to a whole nother level.
All right, we'll talk to him in a few minutes. A couple of Kings-related items. Morgan may not even know this.
What?
Kings preseason schedule
I
came
already
out.
put it on my calendar.
Kings preseason schedule is out. It will start October 3rd at the Lakers. Then they get some days off back at home October 9th for the Portland Trail Blazers. Then at Phoenix on October 12th. And they wrap it up, the 4-game preseason, with a game at home against the Lakers on October 14th. The full NBA schedule should be coming out, I'm guessing, in the next week.
Yeah.
That's usually when it comes out,
it
around
was
this
super
time.
exciting too, right? I thought it was interesting that they're starting off the preseason against the Lakers. I'm like, okay.
I mean, that's pretty much every year. They play the Lakers twice.
Yeah.
Maybe the Blazers.
But like, just to start it off with this team, I'm kind of excited about.
I'm just excited because it's like now we have a day. It's October 3rd. You could start seeing it, right? Media day, training camp opens like the week before.
I was already thinking about night chat for that night. So,
Ooh, I forgot we do night chats
You
for
forgot?
preseason. I kind of did. I'm excited for night chats to come back.
yeah.
The other Kings-related item since our last podcast, the Kings signed Quinn Cook to a deal. The terms of the deal say it's a 1-year deal, but I think it's like most of these contracts that happen like late in free agency where, a portion of it is guaranteed and then even more money is owed if you make the opening night roster. But Mark Spears is reporting that Quinn Cook is coming to Sacramento to battle for the third point guard spot with Matthew Dellavedova.
Should we break down who could do what better and why? And there's only one answer to
Okay,
this solution.
I had a little back and forth with Tim Maxwell yesterday Sacktown Baby Giraffe or whatever his Twitter handle is.
He's
'Cause,
great.
You know, we're to the point, and I see it all over social media, and I get it. You know, it's like, hey, we're just got to talk Kings. We're all in it. We're all super fans, and we want to see them do well. But when we have Twitter threads breaking down third point guard options and saying like, well, I mean, if Mitchell and Fox go down, are you comfortable with Quinn Cook or Dellavedova, or is there a better option out there? Okay, if those two go down, the Kings have major issues. It doesn't matter who else they would sign. And you could go list off all the other free agent point guards, but you have to remember this too. Even if you look at the list, how many of those people available, whether it's Schroeder or whether it's Rondo or Elfrid Payton, how many of those players want to come to Sacramento to compete for a third point guard spot? I'm cool with Cook or Dellavedova. Quinn Cook played last year in Stockton. We got to see some of his games and played pretty well.
Yeah.
Scored at a high rate.
Yes.
Shot the ball well from three.
You look good in G League.
Yeah. A couple of guys who have played some significant NBA minutes. So
Yeah.
We'll see.
There's some experience that are battling out for those final spots, you know, for those positions. And hey, it's better than what we've seen the Kings do in the past. So I'll take it.
But yeah, it just we're to that point of the offseason. Our guy Brendan Nunez is tweeting out Shima greater sign Bazemore or reversing it. I'm like, oh, we can't be doing this. We can't be doing this at this point. It's August. All people who talk about the Kings nonstop, just know we got 82 games ahead. It's a long year. Can we just take a moment and take August and namaste?
Breathe a little.
Get ready for what lies ahead.
Yeah.
We're breaking down. Even Matt George, I listened to his podcast the other day, yesterday, and he goes, so who is going to win the battle for the ninth man? The ninth man? We all need to take a break. It's okay.
Be nice.
I'm not being mean.
I know you're not.
I'm not. That's not. I just think it's funny where we are at in the offseason. It is August, and people are like, all right.
And
like
role players are going to do what they need to do in those roles. And the NBA is made up of lots and lots of role players.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that more.
All right. Well, I'm very excited for our guest. We talked about him at the start of this podcast today. He's a local guy, which is awesome. And he's got an amazing podcast, the Dissect Podcast, and also the co-host of Last Song Standing on The Ringer. He's also a big Kings fan. Let's welcome to the show, Cole Cuchna. How you doing, Cole?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How you guys doing?
Good. Sorry, I was the only person clapping. I thought Morgan was going to clap with me. What are you doing?
Cole? Yeah. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
Dude, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I'm really excited to be on here. As I told you guys, I'm a legit long time, or not a long time listener. I discovered you guys last season, but once I did, I've been listening loyally ever since. So it's pretty cool to be on here.
Well, we appreciate you listening to our podcast
Yeah.
and actually liking what you hear during night chats, because they could take some weird twists and turns as you fall
the
asleep at night. Yeah. We were talking about this at the start of our podcast today. I wasn't aware of the Dissect podcast before you were, hopping in our night chats and looking it up. And I am so amazed at what you're able to do on these podcasts, because you break it down to another level. Have you always loved music? Have you always been into music? When did you get to the point you're like, hey, I want to start really dissecting this?
Yeah, I would say like lifelong musician. I started playing guitar when I was 13, and since then it's just been literally my life has revolved around music in some form or fashion since then. That took different iterations throughout my life. I was the classic, guy in a band for like 10 years in high school and post high school, trying to make it big. But I think the pivotal thing for what I do now, at least, is I was self-taught for like 12 years or something, and then ended up going to Sac State to study classical composition. And that's kind of when I discovered my love for not only like writing music, but also like thinking about it and analyzing it, because that's what you do when you're studying like Beethoven and Mozart. And so that's when I really fell in love with the analysis portion. So Dissect was really just a product of, what if I took the analysis skills that I learned in college and applied them to like contemporary music, specifically hip hop. And that was essentially the genesis of the show. But yeah, lifelong musician.
Wow.
So what made you then, wanting to do that? What made you go, okay, I want to start this podcast. I want to start this Dissect podcast, put it into this format so then I can, let my message be heard to other people.
Yeah, it's funny. Like the thing I always say is like, if I were trying to start a successful podcast, it would not be this one. I literally I started it just to force myself to like do what I used to do in college, which is like write, thousands of words on a single composition, like you would do on a thesis paper or something, right? So that's essentially, that was the genesis of the idea. And then the podcast was just, I was listening to the podcast Serial at the time. I'm not sure you guys ever
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the breakthrough podcast that like brought it into the mainstream. And that like literally the tagline of my show is like a serialized music analysis podcast. Like Serial is like literally in the show, sub show name. But yeah, I don't know. The podcast, was just I mean, I'm very used to like putting things out. I've been making music and like releasing albums. And I've always found it as like, as you guys probably know, like when you're putting something out in the public, it forces you to do your best work. And so the act of starting the podcast was really just an excuse for me personally to see this work through, imagining that I would have some audience and that some, people would be actually reading or listening to the thing that I was creating. And it's been crazy to see where the podcast has gone. It's really like, what I love about it is like, again, like a 13-hour analysis of one album is not the podcast I would think wouldn't find success. But what I love that it is successful is that there is actually an audience for this type of content. People are actually really interested in like long form discussions about art, which is to me like amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, because it kind of goes against what some people say, right? Like everything has to be, 30 seconds. Attention spans are so short. But I feel like if something is good, people are going to watch it. People
No
are
matter
going to
how
listen
long
to
it is.
If it's great stuff and you feel like, hey, I learned something or I'm entertained, like you're going to stick around for it. And I mean, it's a credit to you and everything that you pour into this. When you're breaking down Kendrick's album, if you're breaking down Lauryn Hill, you've done a ton. How much time goes into that, right? Like, because we talk about, 13 hours of audio of the podcast, but I can't imagine the hours of research and listening and dissecting that goes into it. Like, how much time do you spend on one episode?
Yeah. So the episodes are scripted. So just to give you an idea of the scale of each episode is about a 6,000 to 7,000 word. You can think of it as like an essay.
Yeah.
So, so to write that usually takes at least a week, sometimes 2 weeks. So I would say on average, it takes about 2 weeks per episode. That's me working about 6 hours a day. So, but then that doesn't count like the initial research process before I even start writing at all, which is, another 2 weeks before I start a season. So it's like, it's very, very labor intensive, very, very labor intensive.
Yeah.
Like we were watching, the latest one that you had breaking down Kendrick Lamar's new album, and you were talking about things that were taken from music from the past. Excuse my music terminology.
We're casual.
Yeah, we're very casuals. But even with that, I'm like, I said this to Deuce. I'm like, it's not like he's going on Wikipedia and going, oh, this song has this and had taken this from this and from this. How the hell do you find all of that material? And do you know like the way that certain beat was happening was from a song from the 60s and everything?
No, yeah. Usually I don't know much about the song or album before I go into it. And that's where spending the 2 weeks per song really forces you, because like every episode I'm forced to say 6,000 words about a single song. So which that forces me to do a lot of research and a lot of thinking about it. And so it's only in the act of sitting down and analyzing that I actually catch all these little things. Some of them exist on the internet, before, and I just kind of take from there. But, I do find a lot of new stuff that isn't on the internet yet. And that's why I love making the show, because it forces me to like actually sit down with one thing. To your point, Deuce, like we're so encouraged by everything to consume everything really, really fast, and we're scrolling, and it's like everything's surface level. And so what I love about just the creation of the show, and hopefully it translates to when you listen to it, is like, yeah, there is something very valuable about spending a lot of time with one thing. And hopefully it's something that you love. I try to pick albums that are, pretty ubiquitous and kind of reach a mass audience, is why I picked Kendrick Lamar or Tyler the Creator or Beyonce, because people love these albums. And I think what I try to do is, like, you come into this loving this thing. Like, you have a lot of people have a very deep, passionate connection to music. They just don't know how to describe it in words. And they don't know why exactly, like, this song or this particular moment in a song affects you, like, on an emotional level.
Yes.
Which is like the craziest thing about music to me still to this day, is that how just sound alone can affect us emotionally. Like, we literally can feel it in our bodies, but we can't see it. And so I just try to give words and reasons why you might be feeling a certain way. And really what I'm trying to do is just like deepen your connection to the art. That's really bottom line. That's what I'm trying to do.
You do it.
Well, that's mission accomplished, because that's what I was telling Morgan, the other day just about it is, for me, I'm the type, like, I don't feel like I listen to music like I used to.
Yeah.
Growing up. And now it's like, hey, I'm doing some editing or I'm doing something for the podcast. I throw Spotify on. I just have music on. I'm not like listening, just really listening to every, sound or the lyrics or anything like that. And I think what your podcast does is it does make you appreciate what the artist pours into the album, the thought process. It's like the finest details. I mean, I think I was looking at your TikTok too, which, it's so funny. We're talking about, hey, this is a long podcast, but doing what you're doing on TikTok is smart too. As
Get
short
to
content,
new
'cause it's
audiences
great.
too.
And talking about Mac Miller and what he was wearing in a video and what that meant. It was just, those are the details that make me appreciate, because I love the story behind things. It's the same thing in Sacramento, where there's this building. Here's this story behind it. Here's this area. Here's a story behind this area before we ruined everything with redevelopment in, the 1950s or whatever. But, like, I just love what you do with it. And it makes me appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that's really at the heart of what I'm trying to do is, I like my audience in my head always when I'm writing is like my mom. Meaning, like, she's not into hip hop. She's not really that into music, but but everyone loves music. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I try to word things in a way that's very accessible to anyone. You don't have to be a fan of these artists, hopefully, to get it. And, if I could kind of broaden your horizons with like a discovery, because sometimes it's just like something doesn't click until it clicks. Like, so you could not be a fan of Kendrick Lamar, and hopefully maybe if you listen to an episode of Dissect on him, you're like, oh, I get it. Or at least I see it from a different perspective. And yeah, to your point, I think what gets lost so much about albums now and music in general, probably art in general, but like, people forget, like, these artists, these musicians are spending years of their life creating these things. So it's like, it's not like reaching when Mac Miller very strategically planned out the suit he was going to wear in his music video or on his album cover, because he was tying it into the symbolism of like Great Gatsby and all this other stuff. Like, these artists are like, they're at the top of their class for a reason. And what I hope doesn't get lost, and what I guess, like, philosophically what Dissect stands for is like, there is value in art still, like, in this world of fast-paced content, like, there is still value in art, and like, it can, like, quite literally change your life. Like I've had many listeners reach out with very beautiful, touching stories about how music has changed their life, even like sometimes saving your life in terms of just like, finding connection with a particular artist or album or song. And so again, Dissect, all I'm trying to do is just amplify that connection.
It's so true, because I know there's been different music throughout, like when it's King season or whatever, I find myself listening to podcast after podcast and shows after show, so many words, but nothing like what music will make me feel when I'm like taking that second in the car to put on some songs and then I feel different and I'm like, oh, these emotions, I got to make sure to keep feeling these. But something else I wanted to ask you about with artists, is there ever a time when, let's just say, for example, Kanye West, you know, some people obviously find him this genius as a musician and everything, but then when the pop culture life comes along, it's like he's different. Do you ever have these biases when you go into breaking down an artist where it's like, it's almost hard to look at their work because it's just like, gosh, I don't really like them as a person? And I'm not saying specifically him, but he's just the example.
What you mean? Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of the age-old question of like, can you separate art from artist, right? Like, there's artists like, I mean, R. Kelly obviously is like the most extreme example. It's like,
Yeah.
like personally, I would never touch that. Like, it's too far, like too much.
Yeah.
But like with someone like Kanye, it's like, yeah, it's like it's not like he's like physically harming people. You know what I mean? Like he's more kind of like his personality's big, he's arrogant, he has strong ideas, like all that stuff. So I don't know. To me, like with someone like Kanye, like for one, like yeah, I do try to stay objective as much as I can, you know. But sometimes like that stuff like helps you understand the music more too. Like for someone like Kanye, it's super interesting to me that he'll be so arrogant and brash and like you would think he's totally insensitive as a person if you just saw his personality outside of his music. But the fascinating thing about Kanye is that his music is so emotional. Like his newest album, Donda, is like tragedy. It's like tragic. He's like pouring his soul into it. Like you see the like the crappy stuff online about the divorce with him and Kim and like the Pete Davidson stuff. But then you listen to the music and like Donda is his newest album is a divorce album. He's talking about how losing his family and losing his wife has really emotionally affected him in a deep way. And he's like torn up about it. And it's like, so that dichotomy is like really interesting to me where someone like that maybe isn't comfortable being vulnerable in real life and always feels like he has something to prove to someone else. But when it comes to his art, he's so vulnerable, one of the most vulnerable artists we have currently. So I don't know, that it just makes it all the more interesting to me. Like I guess like to answer your question, I'm really good about keeping it objective, but I do find the offstage stuff really interesting in contrast with like the art.
Yeah.
Is there like any misconceptions about artists today? Like, do you, as someone that's so involved in music, do you think we have misconceptions about musicians as a whole in today's era? Because, you know, you hear so often like, oh, the music was just so much better at this time period. It's kind of like in the NBA. It's like, well, back in my day, these guys used to do this. Do you think we have...
Well, the thing about history is like, history is a natural filter. So like we can think about the 90s or whatever era you want to say was better than the current era. And it's like, oh yeah, because you're only remembering Tupac and Biggie, like two of the best rappers ever. Like, right. Like compared to like the hundreds that we're in contact with in the, you know, right now, history hasn't filtered out the best ones. So we're seeing the good and the bad simultaneously. So looking back is always going to be like, you know, that's always going to look better. The past will always look better for that reason, especially with art and music. But also the thing is like most people listen to the music that they fell in love with as a teenager for the rest of their life. And so it's like, that's just like a natural human thing. Most people do that statistically.
Wow.
And so I think when because we like our emotional connections are, I mean, it's the same way like your best friends today are probably the best friends you made in high school or college, right? Like there's something about the developing mind where you make stronger bonds usually when you're younger that last and have a more like nostalgic, resonant kind of emotional impact, you know, to this day. Like to me, like I still listen to the music that I listened to in high school. I still have my best friends are from high school. It's like, I think that's also a component of it too. But I think generally speaking, yeah, like especially now with like, again, social media where artists are kind of forced to play that game. I think we can conflate today's musicians as being a little lesser than, or like having less mystique because the access is so like prominent all the time. We're seeing our artists, we're seeing them in their house on their phones. We're seeing them like in these really intimate moments where someone like, I don't know, say Prince or like Michael Jackson, stuff like we didn't have that access. So there's this like this mystique about them. that it's really hard to exist today. And if you're building that mystique, it's actually very calculated now because you're like staying off of social media for that exact reason. So I think there's just like a lot of components that go into it.
So how do you critique music that you're not too fond of?
I usually don't, to be honest.
Okay.
That's like the beauty of the show because I can
That's
just pick
great.
whatever album, and I think it's important that I personally have like an emotional attachment to the album because I think that translates. Because otherwise, it might just feel like a job, which is like what I'm trying to avoid most.
Yes.
Aren't we all?
Yes. No, dude, that totally makes sense. Now you have a new podcast. It's relatively new. Last Song Standing, where you guys are trying to decide the best Kendrick Lamar song of all time. Like it's a different type of vibe too. Like you have a co-host, you guys are kind of going back and forth on things. What have you enjoyed about that project?
Yeah, this one, it's been just a lot of fun. Like Dissect is like very, kind of dry analysis, very like to the point, rigorous, detailed. And I don't really get to like just talk or even have an opinion really, like because I'm kind of objectively analyzing the music. So Last Song Standing was just a way, one, I wanted to kind of like just, make more content. And also I wanted to just have more opinionated discussions. And so I found a co-host, Charles Holmes from The Ringer, who's really great. And we're like polar opposites. We have very, very different opinions. And so it just makes for a really...
Yeah, he didn't like Bo Burnham. He didn't like Bo Burnham's special, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was like, I thought everyone liked that.
Yeah.
He gave it a 15 stars out of 5. I was so...
Oh my God.
We just didn't connect with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I haven't met many people that didn't connect with, but the few that I have questions about them. But now you have to work with one of them. So very interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's like, because we can, much like you guys, like we can argue, but it's not like personal, right? Like, it's just, so it's been really, really fun. And yeah, the premise is like each season we're going to pick one artist. We're trying to determine what their crown the last song standing, their best song ever. And we do that by going through their entire discography, nominating our selections, kind of gamifying, it's really just an excuse to like talk about Kendrick Lamar and his music. So it's been fun.
That is so wow.
I do want to rewind on one thing. Like your Dissect podcast that really blew up. Like when you reflect back on the fact that now, like, hey, it's on Spotify, you're doing stuff with The Ringer. Do you go, is this really happening? Like, wow, I started this I'm sure like you had aspirations for it to be listened to. You want people to consume your work like you're talking about, but for it to turn into what it's turned into, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's definitely surreal that I get to do it as a job. Like that's still I just have a fear, like literally every day I'm just like, okay, it's going to end today. Like this is just too good to be true. So there's definitely that aspect of it. I would never imagine it would take me this far. I've gotten to do a lot of really cool stuff through the show because of the show. Like I recently gave a TED Talk, which is just like insane to me.
Wow.
Just to even think about that. So, it's definitely brought a lot of really cool opportunities, but I think like, I just like what I love about it is that, what the show, like in my mind, at least like represents and stands for, which is like kind of what I touched on earlier, is like very long form analysis that I think is very like meaningful and important. Like that finding success, just the idea of that concept, finding success, is just really, really rewarding to me. Just knowing there's an audience that want to consume this kind of content still, when everything else is kind of telling you not to consume something like this. I think it's just, it's like, it makes me very optimistic, especially because like the audience I have is kind of younger, it's like, 16 to like 32 or whatever.
Wow.
And so just knowing like this newer generation is interested and isn't just like the cliche short attention span, is just really cool to me.
Dude, this next generation, even with let's say music, sports, pop culture, so many different things, they have so many different resources now that they're educating themselves on so many more different things that I think they're respecting the long form breakdowns and all these different analysis that aren't in TikTok form because they want to know more. I just think about like Pernille, who has been on our show. Yeah, the
so great.
16-year-old.
Like, amazing. It's like so cool. Yeah.
Right.
But growing up, you have access to watch all these NBA guys. Like you said, you can watch all these college prospects. You got Pernille, 16 years old, breaking it down.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
The dogs are fighting.
Yeah,
in the background.
don't worry about the dogs.
Yeah, no, that is so true.
The other thing I wanted to ask now, because obviously you're also a big Kings fan.
Yep.
And you said that music can affect you emotionally.
For sure.
What affects you more emotionally, the Sacramento Kings or music?
It's pretty close but it's like different because the Kings is just usually torture, at least recently. But I mean, but to that, I mean, kind of seriously, like I have like season tickets, I'm all in on the Kings, but like, and you guys know this, the feeling that you get in the arena when something great happens, like I think about the Harrison Barnes turnaround game winner, couple of those moments, or even just like winning a close game or something, like the energy in the arena is just so like you can't replicate that, but it does like give you that same feeling that like live music can evoke too, right? Where it's like everyone's there for the same purpose. We're all kind of tapped into the same energy source, and it just like connects us in a way that sports can, music can, all these central things that we share. I just love that about the live experience of like being at Golden One, watching the Kings, and hopefully we get more of those moments this season.
Yeah. I mean, I think of the Bogdanovich game winner against the Lakers being in the building, and it's like, hey, I think it was like a Friday or Saturday night, right around Christmas time. So it's a packed house. People are more engaged because it's the Lakers.
Yeah.
And Bogey hits a game winner. And that feeling where all these people from all over California are in this building, different views on so many things, I'm sure, but in that moment, they're all together. They're all Kings fans, and the way sports can bring people together. Also in Sacramento, it could tear you apart too with like infighting on Twitter. But those moments are amazing, and it is such an emotional thing. I mean, you just talking about the emotions of being a Kings fan, I felt how many times on night chats I'm like, well, like a couple of years ago when they had 2 9-game losing skids, I'm like,
yeah, it's rough.
When is this ever gonna get better?
Yeah, it's like we needed those moments too. I feel like those, because I feel like haven't we like kind of over-indexed on game winners? Aren't we like on the top, or the top list of like the most game winner shots?
Yes, which is pretty wild.
The basketball gods like granted those moments because they like they keep, it's like the energy. It's like what we need to keep our fandom alive is those special moments. Otherwise, we'd just all be in total misery.
And speaking of moments, do you have a worst and best Kings moment?
And they don't have to be like the obvious, like, oh, I'll never forget, Game 5, Mike Bibby. It could be like the most random game you're at, or random moment.
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind was being in the arena, and it's probably not my top, but it's the first one that comes to mind, is being in the arena watching when Sabonis came for the first game against the Timberwolves.
Yes.
And you were at that game?
When Sabonis first came to Sacramento, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I had a game in Stockton that night. I was by myself. You left.
I remember that.
Sacramento. I missed that moment.
It was like he was majestic,
yeah.
right?
It was like the energy. I hadn't felt the energy in the arena, and so especially last season was like just so hard for that first stretch. Where I stopped going to a couple of games there before the trade because I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And then so that just, again, like the aura in the arena was so special that night, especially coming off we played the Timberwolves twice in a row, so the difference between the two was just like insane. And I feel like, again, it was like that little jolt we needed to keep our King fandom up. Was like, okay, maybe it was like so heart-wrenching to watch Halliburton leave. Like, God, I was almost done as a Kings fan after that. I was like, no, I'm not.
And you know what? You may be done in 3 years if he turns out to be like an all-star and the Kings are bad, but we're not going to think about that. But I do remember that morning, and there's all those trade rumors. I remember my phone, I had my Woj alerts on,
Yeah.
just in case trade deadline season, and that came up on the phone, and I just thought, this isn't real. I remember talking to Morgan after, and she goes, "Well, we got to go live." I'm like, "Yes, I'm gonna need about 45 minutes to an hour just to process this." And I know our whole thing is we go live when something big happens. Let's talk about it. I was so emotionally like, I need to think about this.
Yeah.
Why, what happened, how, all that stuff.
Okay, can I ask you guys something
Yeah.
about that? Spend some time. Do we really buy De'Aaron Fox had an ankle injury? Yeah, okay. So he had this mysterious ankle injury for is it 2 weeks before the trade deadline? He comes back right after the trade deadline. My theory is, I don't know if I'm just getting conspiratorial here.
Ooh.
They shopped Fox. There was no value to be had, but Fox knew. Like, it seemed like Fox was disgruntled last year until the trade deadline. That's, in retrospect, I'm like, that kind of makes sense. Especially the attitude switch after the trade deadline was very noticeable. Like,
yeah, like he was hugging Sabonis. He looked like he was the happiest guy ever. It was like you at the game.
It seems like, I don't know. Like,
I think
it's fishy.
And I've never been able to find out like what really happened.
Confirmed. Never got it confirmed.
You've heard theories, and you're just like, I don't know. Like, I buy that his ankle was definitely an issue.
Yes, because I heard that too from people.
My theory is I think that maybe they thought they were going to shop him a bit, and then we're like, hey, we're going to hold you out during this time just in case. You know, your ankle's bugging you a little bit. Like, let's just, while we get through the trade deadline type thing. That's my theory on it. I don't know if that's correct at all, but that's a theory that I think.
I think we would be.
I don't think, here's one thing.
What?
I don't think it was Fox was like, oh, I'm upset. I don't want to play.
No.
I don't think it was that at all.
And I think we would be naive to think that it wasn't something more. You know, like, look how the world works, and the sports world works similar behind the scenes. Now, usually, though, the only thing that we did keep saying, we're like, if that was the case, we would have heard, someone would have reported this by now. Sam Amick, Mark Spears, someone would have. So we kept just like, whoever's keeping it under wraps, and or there really wasn't much more to it.
Right. Yeah. I can see that. The Kings seem to be pretty good about keeping things like the lid pretty tight. Right?
Better.
Yeah, with this front office, it's been a lot better. Yeah, and I do think I've thought a lot about the whole De'Aaron Fox, that stretch last year where it just seemed like it was off. Like, I think, one, he was struggling with the fact that he wasn't playing well on the floor, and I think mentally that got to him. I feel like there was a frustration, too, of I've been here 5 years. I need some help. Yep. I'm looking around, and there's talented players, but, we've had 2 top 10 picks recently, and they've both been guys that play my position. Like, give me some help. And it's nothing against Davion or Tyrese. I think maybe he's looking around going, I just want to win.
Yeah.
And this is not me trying to come up with excuses for him. I mean, I'm just trying to understand where he was at, because there was such a different vibe post-trade with De'Aaron, where he clearly looked like a guy that was happy, maybe relieved that I have some help.
Yeah. And you know what else too, Cole? I think everyone wants to feel like, with famous people, athletes, whoever, that they understand their personalities. And I feel like De'Aaron Fox is one of those personalities not everyone's going to connect with, not everyone's going to understand. I think he's a great person that's like an introverted, I wouldn't say like an outgoing introvert, but something along those lines where, he can be this, he wants to be this star player, a star player in this league. And I think there's parts of him that are capable of doing it, and then there's other parts of him that are just so different than what other star players have. And so I think it's like people always try to break down what type of personality he has, but I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as long as he's good to his teammates, to the people around him, and good on the floor.
I also have a question for you too, because it was, it was an evening, and of course, I might have had a gummy, and so I'm doing some thinking, and like the De'Aaron Fox's wedding stuff popped up,
Okay.
on like Instagram.
Are we going to
or
break down his
something.
wedding?
And at first, because some people were talking about, oh, like this person was there, this person was there. I'm not talking about Jason Tatum or Trae Young, those guys. Like, those are all friends. But, like, did it make you feel like, oh, this is maybe good vibes right now because there were, like, Monte McNair was there, and, like, Mike Brown was there, and, like, Matina. You start seeing these it's like, this is your wedding. Like, you don't just, like, throw out an invitation. Like, if you didn't like people or if you weren't vibing with a certain situation, you're not inviting your general man, right? Or am I looking too much into that?
No, I had the same thought when I saw Monte McNair. I was like, oh, that's a good sign. That's like a great sign. If you're inviting the GM to your wedding, I think that speaks volumes to what your relationship with that person is and the trust level, right? Like, I mean, I've been a fan of what Monte's done with a few exceptions, but I think you always have to remember the mandate of win now, right? Like, the Vivek thing is the win now thing is very real. So if you put because I think he would probably have went a different route if that mandate wasn't a thing. If I were betting money, I would guess he would probably want to go the rebuild route with Tyrese. But given the constraint of win now, like, I think the moves that he's made have been really solid, especially Kings and keeping our draft equity. I think that's super, super very rare now. Go ahead.
De'Aaron obviously feels like Monty is doing something to help him out too, right? Because, I mean, I'm not saying that he feels that way just because he invited him
So
to
basically,
the wedding.
if he didn't trade for Sabonis, Monty's not
invited,
There's
not getting a wedding invite.
There's no way Monty's at the wedding.
Dude, but you guys but Mike Brown being there so quick too. It's like, I've known De'Aaron longer than Mike Brown.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, if I were in Fox's shoes, I don't know that Mike Brown makes the cut for my wedding.
What?
I guess they do know each other from back in the day.
Yeah.
Were you guys a little offended that you weren't invited?
No,
not at all. Not at all.
I was busy that weekend anyway.
I don't think I'll ever be invited to an NBA play. I wouldn't want to be invited to an NBA player's wedding.
Stop it.
No, I wouldn't. I just think
if De'Aaron Fox and his wife invited you to their wedding, you wouldn't be like, oh, I'll go.
Don't you think there's like a conflict of interest when you're going to a whole bunch of NBA players' weddings?
You're not breaking stories, Morgan. You host a pre-half and post-game show and talk about the team. It's not
I don't know.
It's not like Woj going. That'd be like, why is
Woj going would be weird. I don't know. One, though, I would never be invited. But two, I don't know. I always find it so interesting because I personally wouldn't want anyone to be like, that's the only reason why she's breaking down his game like that. And it's like, no, I'm being honest and fair. And no matter whether I have a relationship with that person or not, everything I say on a podcast, I would say to their face. That's how I go about it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Did we get your worst moment as a fan? As a Kings fan, do you have
it's funny, I was thinking about it and like none come to mind because
it's fine if you don't have
defense mechanism against like
there's so many.
It's just like you psychologically block them out and just stay hopeful, which is like I feel like any Kings fan has the DNA of an optimist because you're just like you kind of have to, right? Like because we've been holding on to hope for so long. There's just been to be honest, no offense, Buddy Hield, but goddamn, there's been so many shots. Just like Buddy's shot selection might just be my general worst moment.
It's a great one.
Just like universal worst moment of just like, obviously when they go in, it's great, but let's talk about, but some of those shots that just took us out of close games, it just,
they hurt. They physically, you talk about music physically making you feel something. It was the same thing with Buddy's shot selection and decision making. And I just think with someone like him, like talk about a person that a lot of people like as a person. I saw him get along with a lot of people behind the scenes, but it always seemed like a lot of players and people were really annoyed with the way he would play on the floor. And it's understandable, you don't want to have a player like that with so much free range on a team that needs to win. And it was so long, it just wasn't good for this culture. I'm so glad that the Kings went into a different direction.
I do kind of miss Mo Harkless. Like,
just being so upset.
Just like being the face of every Kings fan of just like disappointment and vocalizing our pain to him.
Like disgust. Like, no.
My worst moment, I have to go back to when Weber went down in game 2 against the Mavs.
Right,
He's
yeah.
29 years old. The Kings, that was their best team they've ever had. And no one could convince me otherwise. That team was going to win a championship.
Yeah.
And you just start going in, for me, I start going into what if that didn't happen? They win a championship. Does that mean like they get a new arena sooner? Do the Maloofs end up staying? Like, there's so many things that you win a championship that can extend things for a good amount of time. You know, especially if Weber doesn't go down. Who the hell knows what could have happened?
Yeah, but that what if game, that's such a mind, like, you know, that I just don't even want to. I don't mess with that too much. I more go to like Robert Ory's shot, Vlade tipping it out, Ory's shot.
But that happens.
But
Weber.
That happens, but that also, like, every time I see it and the anniversary comes up, there's times I tear up. Like,
See, you know what? I as much as I hate that shot for me, I also go, well, they won the next game. Baby had a game winner in game 5. Game 6, yeah, they got jobbed. Game 7, they're at home. They should have won that game, and they gagged it as we go back to 2002. Anyway, all right, let's focus on this season, Cole. If you had 3 wishes, or just a wish, whatever, any wishes for the upcoming Kings season?
Yeah, I think my top one, I was trying to think about this, like, because my first inclination was like, okay, I wish De'Aaron Fox has a breakout year. Like, I think that's a reasonable, realistic wish. I almost like consider it not a wish because it should just happen, right? Like, all the cards are lined up for De'Aaron Fox to have a breakout season. We need it from him. This is the year to prove it. It's kind of personally my make or break season for him. But my wish is for the Kings to have an all-star. And I'm kind of leaving it open because one, like if they have an all-star, that means their record's good enough to have an all-star. So traditionally, if you're a losing team or a very poorly losing team, you're not going to get an all-star no matter how good the player is. So it kind of kills 2 birds in one stone. We'd have a good enough record. And it's like, okay, Fox might be the obvious choice there, but it got me to thinking that what I wanted to pose to you guys is like, is the Kings ceiling higher if De'Aaron Fox is the best player in the All-Star, or is their ceiling actually higher if Sabonis is their best player in the All-Star? I understand like the two in tandem and it's like going to be a joint thing, but like there's always kind of the alpha. There's always like who you're going to run your offense through when time gets tough. Like, and the more I thought about it, I think the ceiling's higher if Sabonis is your best player. Wow. But I want to hear you.
That's interesting.
I was going to say De'Aaron, and my reasoning is because that means that he's taken that. Like, that means Sabonis is probably in the conversation somewhere because that means things are going well. But if that happened with De'Aaron, it's like, then everything else is going well. We always say that he's the head of the snake. And if he has that year, then who knows what the shooting around him could be and the way that the paint could be so much more open for him to attack, penetrate, pass out with efficient shooters and people to cut through the paint and maybe even De'Aaron moving off the ball and cutting through the paint for Sabonis to find him. I don't know. In my opinion, I think if De'Aaron has this type of breakout year, because that's one of my wishes too, then I think things are going well everywhere.
Yeah, I think for me it's Fox because I feel like I know what I'm going to get from Sabonis.
That's
almost
fair.
every night. Like, and he has a resume, and I don't care if he was an all-star replacement once. The guy's been on the all-star team twice in his NBA career. He's just a really, really good player.
Solid.
I think Fox is too. But Fox last year was not consistent at all. But he showed you the flashes at the end where he went, oh, this is why people in Sacramento dig him. This is what we think he can be. So if Fox can be that consistent guy and be in the all-star conversation, it's because he is not only playing well, but the Kings are playing well. One of my wishes, and this is where I'm more guarded, I'm like, can Fox or Sabonis be in the all-star conversation? I just want him in the conversation.
That's it.
You know, like I would say it's a lot more challenging for Fox to get in if he has a great year.
Yeah.
Because there's so many guards in the league.
Right.
Where Sabonis maybe has a greater chance just based on a positional thing if he has a great year. But ultimately,
in the combo,
to me, the Kings are only getting an all-star if they are like one of the pleasant surprises in the league. next year to start. It would, to me, they'd have to be 500 or better to really get that boost and get a player in.
It can't be like De'Aaron's having a better year than last year. Oh, okay, that's where the conversation's at, because it's like, well, that's not saying much. Obviously, the later part of the season was better for De'Aaron, but it's just not saying enough. So,
my other wish, I just want them to be really good at home, and because they haven't been in recent years. And you just think about the last few years, just with the pandemic and, limited amount of fans and fans coming back and the team just shit in the bed.
Yeah.
Getting that place rocking, getting Sacramento's fan base to have some fun again in the building, going to the games, making like Golden One Center, like, what's the vibe? Like, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't really have one at this
Make
point.
me feel.
It's still, I think we're entering year 5 or 6 of this building.
Is that it?
And there are moments you think of, this, but obviously with Arco being there for so long, like there are moments that building had a smell, it had a vibe, it had the wood floors, the Arco Thunder. Golden One Center doesn't really have a personality, in my opinion, yet, and that's mainly because the team hasn't been very good. Like, Kings fans want this team to do well, but this team, if they're going to be a playoff team or playing team, like, you better be well above 500 at home, and if they're at above 500 at home, the crowd's super engaged.
People are in it.
It just makes it so much more fun. The last time they were above 500 at home was that 2018-19 season when they won 39 games on the season.
Dave Yeager.
Yeah, that ties into like one of my other wishes, and the most realistic wish probably that I have is just I want the Kings to be fun. Like, I want to watch fun basketball, very simple. Like, I want to enjoy myself when I watch them. I don't want it always to be torture. I can handle losing. Like, obviously, they're going to lose at least half their games, probably, realistically, somewhere around there. That's fine. Like, I think we all have realistic expectations for the win-loss totals. But if they could just be fun, like, just, like, pass the ball. Like, that's what I love about Sabonis. Just pass the ball, hit threes, drive. Like, just keep it simple. Like, just let's have some fun. And I think we have the components for a very, very fun team. I do like our squad. It obviously has some holes, but I think generally speaking, it has a potential to be just like really, really fun.
I agree. I really do. Just because what you just said was Sabonis, just a guy that wants to get the ball moving around. That stuff is contagious because it is fun.
Yep.
And, I think Fox obviously is in a better mindset now.
Mike Brown's going to bring discipline too. Like, you're not just going to get free range to do whatever the hell you want.
But they also have some emotional guys. Like, Sabonis gets a little emotional. Malik Monk is a little fiery. Even Chima, who we talked about the other day, he plays with an edge. Davion gets into it. I like it.
I like these wishes too, because mine, going off of that, was being competitive in losses. And no.
That is the worst
It's
wish
not.
ever.
It's not though, because literally our standards have to be so low because it's been so low for so long, and in so many of these losses the last few years, Deuce and I would come on for a night chat and not even be able to break down fundamental basketball. Like, we couldn't break down someone, in drop coverage because this guy was just whatever. There was not much to break down except effort. And that's why the Kings are going to still lose plenty of games this season, whether people want to hear it or not, because that's how you grow and you learn, and you're going to play against certain teams that are better than you. So in some of those losses, I need to see competitive play throughout the entire game, just like we saw in Summer League when they were playing against Orlando, like that type of vibe all season long.
Be competitive in losses.
Why is that?
I don't
Why
know,
is
it just
that?
made me
Cole,
laugh.
does that bother you?
It's such a Kings fan's wish.
Yes.
Right.
It's like you can wish for literally anything in this exercise, and we're just like, okay, let's keep our expectations low.
Yeah.
We just know the history. We know,
I guess that brings me to my next wish is another Kings fan thing. Just don't be a joke defensively. Don't be a joke defensively. I'm honest with the defensive pieces here, although I think there are pieces on this team that could be better defensively. Just don't be dead last.
Yeah.
Like,
That's fair.
If they were like
Standards are low.
If they were 20th in defense, even that year where they won 39 games with Yeager, I think they were 26th in defense,
right.
which wasn't very good, but they got up and down the floor. They had identity, whatever. But can you get to like 20? Because if you get to like in that low 20s mark and you have a good offense, which I think they will have a good offense, they'll be fun and they'll be competitive.
You got another one?
Yeah, mine's more. This one's like So okay, I was trying to think of like the worst. Like the Kings have been in like the worst area of basketball forever, which is like what I call NBA purgatory, where you're like not tanking, you're not losing enough, and you're not winning enough. And we've done this for like what 10 years straight.
Yes.
And we always get like the 10th pick. We lucked out a couple times the past couple of years, but generally speaking, we've been picking like 8th to like 12th or whatever, which is just like okay, so usually just outside the top prospects, and it's just this basketball purgatory. So if we're forced to be in win now mode, if that's the mandate, like, do we take is a reasonable wish to get us out of NBA purgatory, take a big effing swing at the trade deadline? Like we have draft deck. Is it time to cash in the draft equity? We have the expiring Harrison Barnes contract. I don't know if he's staying long term. Like that's a great chip. We have some other pieces that we could put into a bigger package. Like, is this the year to make the big swing? I don't know who the player is. Like, it's not. You never know how the season pans out, so it's almost like not worth the exercise of trying to go through and figure it out. But like, I don't know. It just is the timing right to take that swing this year? Do you guys?
Yeah, I think the one aspect that makes it challenging is the protections on the Kevin Huerter pick, and you can't trade first-round picks back-to-back years. And that the pick they give up for Huerter, it could convey in 24 or 25 or 20. So you limited yourself with that move. And yeah, taking a swing at the deadline. Yeah, I just it's like what kind of big deadline target could be out there? I don't know, but yeah, I think they limit. Monte McNair did limit their options with that pick. Now, could they make another move, get another first-round pick, and sure, I guess they could do something like that.
Yeah, but but basically a wish is like making that extra swing of a move that pushes this team to that next level. And when you say push this team to that next level, it's not about just to get into the playoffs. It's about sustainability, I assume.
Yeah, for the next 4-year window, I guess. Is
Yeah.
as far as you can really plan out the NBA. Like, I don't know. Just obviously this team might make the play-in. Like, best case scenario, they easily make the play-in or more. Like that's like super best case scenario. But realistically, they're going to be battling even for a play-in spot. Because if you look at the West, it's like the only two teams that are probably going to for sure drop out of the play-in or above is the Jazz, maybe if they trade Mitchell, and the Spurs. So it's like that's two open spots, but also the Lakers didn't make it the last year, and they're probably going to make it this year, I would assume, if they're healthy. And so then you have like Pelicans, Kings, and the Blazers, I guess, all competing for the last play-in spot for the 10th spot. Like that just doesn't sound, I don't know, like
promising.
We need more. Like,
yeah.
And again,
no,
win now. Like let's be win now for like let's go all now. Right.
Stop being right there in the middle and like not knowing exactly what your identity is, and if you're trying to take that next step, then take the next step. I get that.
I want to get to a couple of people in the chat, their wishes for the upcoming season. One person, King of the Court. My third wish is that they don't break down the third quarter. It's really painful to watch. Yeah, that would be great.
Fair.
That's a good one. Someone said more flashy dunks. Another person also said they loved your. Can you please tell Cole I loved his Mac Miller podcast series? That's from B. Perry.
Yeah, thank you.
Same
cool.
B. Perry.
That's cool.
One of my last wishes, just going off of becoming this sustainable success, right? I really think this year has to be all about how they develop guys. So the developmental aspect of this year, I think, is huge, because not only have we heard the reputations of like Jordy Fernandez, and just what Mike Brown can do, but I'm starting to see someone like Keegan Murray have everything that it takes for a rookie to take that next leap and to get a little bit better. And for Davion Mitchell as well. We already know that he wants to put in the time and the work, but will that work and time actually do something different with his game, even as an undersized guard, an undersized player out there. Like, you have to do things differently when you are an undersized guy. So the developmental aspect of this team, from youth to even their depth, I think is going to be one of the most important things. So then that growth can come off of that for next year.
I need to just check myself, because here we are in August, and I was just about to utter the words, I think it's going to be a good year. And I feel like I've said that a lot over the last few years.
Every year we come in, it's
you could start seeing, you start talking yourself into things. I would say this. I don't feel like I have to talk myself into things this year as much. Like, I like the moves they made. Keegan's nice, dude.
Stay grounded.
You can feel. You don't have to be guarded. Sometimes you just have to go with what your gut says, Morgan. If you see what's happening and you're like, hey, I like this team, I think they're going to be good. What's the worst case scenario? They're bad again? Okay, cool. I'm wrong. But I'm just telling you how
Our mental
I feel.
health? What about our mental health?
again, I think it goes back to the fun thing. If anything else, just be fun. Like, just be a pleasant basketball team to watch. I think we got some good cast of characters too. We got what's the Kevin Herter's nickname?
Red Velvet.
Right? Yeah, we got Red Velvet. So we're gonna get some great T-shirts, some great signs out of that. Hopefully, the Fox and the Ox thing hasn't fully evolved yet, so should be looking forward to where that's going. I think we got some fun stuff.
Got some personalities too. I'm digging the vibes.
Dig the vibes, Cole and Deuce, but stay grounded.
Cole, seriously, we can't thank you enough for hanging out, and it was cool learning more about your story, and your podcast is amazing, and we wish you the best of luck going forward. Keep killing it with the podcast, and hopefully we can have you on again another time.
Yeah, you guys too. It's been really, really cool to watch you guys grow, especially as like a fellow Sacramento podcaster. I feel like got to stick together out here. But yeah, it's been really, really awesome to see you guys growing the community in the right way. Like, it's not all about like, you guys could very easily try to do like no offense to like Stephen A or like Skip Bayless, but like the clickbaity, YouTube kind of, but it's like you guys are doing it the right way. Might take a little, longer process to grow that way, but
that means a lot.
Build like way more sustainable, way more real than the clickbait stuff. So it's been really cool to see you guys do that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it's something that, I'm always looking at different ideas, and you're seeing what other people do, not just in Sacramento. We're talking about outside with like sports content on YouTube, and you're like, well, this has 800,000 views. And you go, oh, well, yeah, it's like the most clickbait thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it. I can't stomach that. I mean, I'm sure I could probably come up with some pretty good clickbait ideas, but I just can't do it.
No. So that it really does mean a lot, because we try and pride ourselves on doing things like that. And the slow growth, just like with us, and hopefully even with the Sacramento Kings,
going to be
the sustainable.
As soon as the Kings are good, like your podcast is going to blow up. Like that's
Let's
the
go.
biggest restriction. It's just the Kings being not relevant for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
It'll pay off. It's already paying off, but I think you guys are on track to have something really great. So,
well, thank you so much, Cole, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for joining us, man.
I really appreciate it.
Oh, man, he is awesome. Great catching up with Cole. Check out the Dissect podcast. Check out Last Song Standing on the Ringer. It is cool thinking about some of the awesome podcasts out there. His podcast, he's from Sacramento.
Yeah.
Steven Larson, my favorite wrestling podcast, everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, Going in Raw. They're from Sacramento.
It's cool.
We got some legit ass podcast talent here.
We really do. And I just appreciate, and that's what I love too, what Cole just said, all podcasters from Sacramento got to stick together. And what's been so great is that some of these way bigger podcasts are always willing to chat with us, and we're picking their brains. They're picking our brains. We're communicating, collaborating, and I don't know. It's just, it makes the world go round.
Today's podcast, by the way, presented by T.R. Reagan. Talk about the grind.
Oh my God.
T.R. Reagan, Morgan's mom, is a best-selling author. For like 20-something years, she was writing books. She would take it to the big book publishers, and they got, not good enough. This is disgusting. Gross.
Fail.
This sucks. Give up. I dare you. You've got a family. Just go be a mom and work a job. She kept writing. She kept going. And then she goes, you know what? Self-publish. She believed in herself, self-published.
Yeah.
And now look at what she's been able to accomplish. You should check out her thrillers because they are amazing. You talk about a ride. Buckle the F up. They're dark. They're twisted. And what's really cool is they're all based in Sacramento.
Yeah, I think that's one of the funnest things about them is that not only are they so thrilling, but based in Sacramento. So then you can kind of relate and be like, oh, I kind of know where that is. And she's just one of those good writers that really paints the picture for you. So I love her work. Obviously,
I mean,
my mom.
it's your mom. Like, if you didn't like her work, wouldn't that be weird?
Well, honestly, when she started killing a whole bunch of people in her books, it was too much for me. So like her romance novels, it was a little weird reading your mom's romance novels. But then when she started killing people, it was like, this is creepy as hell. I don't know if I can do it. I kept diving in and she's just fantastic. And so if you're into, reading new things that you can get through even quick, make sure to check her out on Amazon, TR Reagan. Just search her and you can see all of her books here.
Yeah, we're also encouraging you guys to check out our website. Go to deuceandmo.com, click on merch, and you can get some Deuce and Mo merch. We'll have some new stuff to come, including the idea that someone gave us about making your King's Vision board into merch.
I know. I have to take a pretty clear photo of it, and then we'll have a King's Vision board shirt going on for sale to go into the new season with some really good vibes.
But if you haven't picked up some of the stuff we have now, we got the NWO style Deuce and Mo shirt, mug, beer glass. We got the OG shirt, Stack Days. We got the Disciple ones, which I'm surprised we have any in stock at this point. Just flying off. We also have crew necks available in those same ones, and our Fox and Ox shirt, crew neck, and sticker.
And you guys, what's so great about the company that we do use as well, if you ever have a problem with your order, if something ever gets crinkled up in the dryer, they're going to send you a brand new one. So you just got to reach out to them. Great company we work with. Love their products.
Yeah, go to deuceandmo.com, click on merch. All right, let's check in with the chat. Appreciate everyone watching our interview. Lizzie says, Deuce and Mo, thank you. That was one of your best interviews. I love Dissect Podcasts. Oh, my God, thank you.
That's too kind. And yeah, Cole he's such a pro.
Yeah. People are really excited about the vision board tee. Maybe a hoodie as well. I'm curious from those in the chat, too. We had our 3 wishes or wishes for the Kings season. What are some of your wishes for the upcoming Kings season?
I just saw one and someone said, my wish is to see more flashy dunks.
Yeah, I had mentioned that one already. You didn't listen. Steven says, Deuce, we wish they don't suck again. That's just a great, I just wish they just don't suck.
Yep, that's a good wish.
Could you imagine, just for a second, I know you don't like doing this exercise because yes. Imagine, close your eyes for a second. Oh. It's night chat. The Kings are 21-14. Just imagine that, huh?
Ow.
Or hey, it's April. Hey, so who do you like in that play-in matchup, the 7-8 matchup, Kings Lakers?
I can't even see it, dude.
Hey, isn't it? Or close your eyes.
Okay.
It would suck to be a play-in team for the 6th seed. Could you imagine? Could you imagine what life would be like on night chats?
Well, I can imagine that, but I can't imagine it yet. Which
we know what it was. We know what it's like when it's not fun. We've been there. So you could say, "Oh, you mean get ready for non-game losing skid?" Yeah, we've been there. We've done live podcasts after that. So imagine the basketball gods for one time.
We all deserve it. We all deserve it together, and I'm so excited to experience it with all of you. I think that's going to be the funnest part because, we've gotten to the lowest of lows, and then we've had some highs, and we got to experience that together. But experience it with a community of people like this is one of the most special things, one of the best feelings that could ever happen.
Hack says, screw all that. We need to be saying in April, we need to win this game to clinch home court in the playoffs.
You guys, that's not.
Morgan, this is all wishes. It's not like people are predicting. There is a difference, obviously. Erwin, very realistic. Effort and fun. That's a good wish.
Effort. Yeah. E and F. E and F. E and F. What do you guys want to see more? E and F.
That's hilarious. Well, we appreciate everyone hanging out for the podcast, the audio version. We're going to continue on to hang out with the YouTube and Twitch crowd. We love you guys so much, but we got to go.
You all have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya!
Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. The podcast that you know. Deuce and Mo.
All right, YouTube and Twitch crowd, thanks for hanging out with us. It's always fun to hang out and chat post-show. Shout out to KKey97 who subscribed on Twitch.
Appreciate
NBA
you.
Rig says, Deuce and Mo, any slogan, can give me a hell yeah t-shirt that I could purchase? Yeah, that's an interesting one.
can
I
do
mean,
a slogan.
that's like, does WWE file a lawsuit immediately or?
Give me a hell yeah. But then you put, I don't know how you get to do that.
Yeah. Also, make sure to, if you're in the chat on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. We're going to be putting more and more content. We're trying some different things. We just posted a video kind of going over some of the highlights of Vivek's interview with Andre Iguodala and Evan Turner. We did that yesterday.
Great job with that, by the way.
I put a piece of content out on our YouTube page about one of my favorite in-game dunkers being Dominique Wilkins.
Who retweeted Deuce's video.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
Oh, I am.
No, that was really cool. It was really cool. No, Dominique Wilkins. I'm going to start doing more of these NBA stuff because we all talk, like anytime you say best dunkers in the NBA, everyone talks about Vince Carter. And I love Vince. Vince had some awesome dunks. That dunk contest in Oakland at All-Star Weekend was incredible. And he had some awesome in-game dunks too. I think what I come to appreciate with dunkers like Dominique and Sean Kemp back in the day, there was violence.
Yeah, I was going to say pure nastiness.
There was like, I don't care who is in front of me. I'm jamming on you, and I'm going to taunt you. I'm going to talk shit. I connect with those. Vince is an amazing dunker. Like, no one's going to dispute that.
You don't have to put him down just because you're saying anyone is a better in-game dunker. I think that people's minds just go so black or white with some of these situations. And it's like, no, they're still good. They're still good.
I also don't know that we appreciate dunks like we should. Like dunking on an open fast break, like that. Yeah, and you see a windmill. That's amazing
Still
athleticism.
good, yeah.
No. But Morgan going up and being vulnerable.
Yep.
You're in a situation. You're in the air and
Couldn't
you're
do
going
it.
up to dunk on someone.
Couldn't do it. Different mentality.
I have such great appreciation for the athleticism and like determination that comes with that.
The ability to sacrifice your body possibly in going full speed up in the air to throw it down on this metal rim. You know, I remember, I think it was Willie Cauley-Stein after he had hurt his finger. It was like he said he never wanted to. You're getting ready to make fun of me.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I'm not. Go ahead.
I'm getting coffee.
Why you bringing up old shit?
Something like that.
Willie Cauley-Stein, you're right.
I was just mentioning because I remember him talking to the media about it. I'm not like, and there's other stories out there like that. I'm just mentioning that. Screw you guys.
Screw Stephen Brown, who said, I mean, Dominique Wilkins probably doesn't get mentioned much these days, so of course he liked Deuce's Twitter post.
Oh my God. Wait, I'm going to get coffee.
I think that's badass that Dominique hasn't played the game in how long? Like 27 years, and he's still getting mentioned to this day. But yes, dude, Steven's so right. Dominique would windmill dunk while people were in the lane. Yeah, that's disgusting.
That's insane.
I love it.
To have no fear. You guys, I can't even dunk on or when I was capable of touching an 8-foot rim. I mean, when I say capable, barely. Credit card hops over here. But even then, I remember a whole bunch of us would play on that and everyone would be throwing it down. And then finally, when they're like, just try it, I couldn't even do it. It just hurt my wrists. It hurt my arms.
Coward.
Yeah. Just couldn't do it.
Kevin Fippen was mentioning Sean Kemp too. Sean Kemp, dude.
Yes.
The Rain Man, that guy was so fun. Then the lockout happened and
What's
was
crazy?
never the same.
It's crazy too because I always feel weird sometimes when I talk about these in-game dunkers that I was not actually actively watching all the time. But when I do watch their highlights, and I know we say like, oh, highlights can't tell the whole story of someone's game. It can tell the whole story of what a nasty in-game dunker they are, though. That is what those multiple highlights of a nasty different dunk in a different game in a different season can tell you.
Zach LaVine dunks get mentioned. Leezy mentioning Blake Griffin. Yeah, Blake had some fun dunks early in his career. The one that I think is one of the most overrated dunks in NBA history, hot take coming from Deuce.
Yeah, which one?
The one where like he dunked on Mozgov and it's like, well, you didn't touch the rim. You threw the ball in. You were in the air. If you would have dunked, it was nice, but it wasn't a dunk. Like to me, if you dunking on someone, you have to touch the rim. Like you
ridiculous slam dunk on Mozgov.
Yeah, I mean everyone lost their shit on it, and it was like, well, I mean. It's kind of like when people talk about Odell Beckham's catch against the Cowboys on Monday Night Football, where I'm like, yeah, I mean, those gloves are pretty remarkable.
Let's see. Those gloves are pretty remarkable.
I sound like such a hater. All right, so we'll screen and roll.
Boom. Oh, I mean, yeah, he got
threw the ball in. He threw the ball in. That wasn't a dunk.
That wasn't that wasn't ridiculous compared to what we've seen before.
Yes, Blake
it was
had
just,
some days.
I think what's so cool is just that it's Mozgov and he like got that. Look how high up he gets on this.
For sure. Blake's athleticism.
Yeah. Like that's still.
And if he didn't get pushed, he's probably dunking it, but we're not. He threw the ball in.
It's like you wish his whole body just like came into him.
Mike says if it's not a dunk, what is it? A lay down? Yeah, I guess maybe.
Let's see. Yeah.
Boise. Comment of the day nominee. He is a member for 3 consecutive months, but he also says Cowboys still won that game against the fraud OBJ. Okay, I'm not going to call OBJ a fraud at all, but I do, trust me, as someone who grew up a Cowboys fan, I'm not really much of one anymore. That play made me laugh because they played it so much. I'm like, they lost the game. Gerald Green had some nasty dunks. That's a good one. Trying to think some other underrated dunkers that we don't think of. You know who had some nasty dunks for Sacramento?
Who?
And it was small. It was a small sample size. Derek Williams.
Oh yeah,
Derek Williams.
Because that was like one of the only things that we would talk about with him. He just could. It was a nasty dunk the way he could throw it down. Like Quincy AC, he had like maybe 2, but Williams at least had multiple.
D-Thrill. Someone, let's see, King of the Court mentioning Steve Francis. Amari Stoudemire had some nice ones with the Suns. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other kind of underrated ones.
Wow, these are 50.
Yeah, dude.
So Serge Ibaka's in the top 50.
Stop it.
I'm going down the list. Don't worry.
Octopus Ear says Gerald Wallace's preseason dunk is the best ever. Yeah, that against the Rockets. That was disgusting. Andre Iguodala is labeled as a top 10 dunker of all time. When was this written?
It's Bleacher Report and
Kobe had some disgusting dunks as a player. MJ had some.
LeBron too.
Yeah, but I'm trying to go with some of the ones that maybe are. Think about like role players that.
So too long ago.
Like I think I saw a name. I thought Shannon Brown was on there. He had some nice dunks back in the day. Jay Rich was nice. I'll be right back.
Bye. What is this one? I just saw Malik Monk. Top 10 underrated players. Malik Monk's on that list. Underrated. I don't want underrated players. I want underrated dunkers. Whatever. I don't even see anything. Let's see. Anyone else got any more? Which 6'4" or under dunker is your favorite? Let's see. Under 6'4" NBA dunkers. Just seeing. I know it's a stretch. Someone said Bradley Beal. Oh wait, no, that's 2K rating. NBA's here we go. NBA's top 20 greatest dunkers under 6'5".
Oh, I love this list because I want to give a quick shout out real fast.
Yeah.
Spud Webb and Nate Robinson.
Well, Leezy said Nate Robinson with a question mark. Yep. Okay. So I'm not going to go. I'm going to start with the 10 because
Give me this list.
All right.
When was this written?
That's
That's fine. You don't have. I mean,
now I have to.
Morgan just bring
2009.
Oh my God, Morgan! Just for the record, there's nothing more than lists from Bleacher Report from 2009.
I was
when
but it's the point is it gives you just a little bit some.
Bleacher Report back then was just a different. It was like Joe Random guy going on Twitter now ranking dunkers.
Joe
like,
Random
who is this person?
says Baron Davis.
Baron Davis's jam on Andre Kirilenko might be one of the top playoff dunks in history.
Allen Iverson's on there.
Okay.
Boo. Let's see.
D. Wade had some
Dwayne
nice
Wade.
dunks. Okay.
Nate Robinson's up there. Steve Francis. Barkley.
Stop.
Barkley's under 6'5".
Yeah. I know. It's always surprising.
Yeah. Spud Webb.
And David Thompson back in the day, a long time ago.
Yeah. So again, this super old list. I was just looking for under 6'4" NBA dunkers. So the 6 greatest players under 6'4" on Reddit. Yeah, whatever.
Davion Mitchell almost. You're right, Kevin. Davion Mitchell almost had a jam last year. The almost jams are always fun.
Who was that on? Like,
I forget.
Okay. I was using Google as my search engine. Come on now.
Oh man, yeah.
Derrick Rose could. God.
If you had the ability to do either, what would you rather do? Dunk on someone in a game,
or
block a dunk attempt in a game, like a nasty block attempt, a dunk attempt.
I would rather be able to dunk, because I just, and again, I know the right answer as a hooper. It should be block a dunk.
I don't know. There's a right answer. How's there a right answer? What's the right answer?
Because I think being able to be that guy, that person that can block dunks that come straight at you like that to me is magnificent. It's just so powerful. I don't even know how these people do it. But dunking the shit on someone just sounds so much more fun.
I'm more impressed with the blocks of a dunk.
100%.
Because more times than not nowadays, guys get out of the way.
Yeah.
They don't want to be on like social media. Like it used to be, I don't want to get posterized. Now it's like, I don't want to get clowned on Twitter for the next 10 years.
Yeah. No, and that's why I just think personally for me, like if I could do something, it's like, yeah, I'd rather throw it down on someone.
God. Be able to be like Dikembe and just
not today.
There was that one story. Was that during the Jordan doc or where did I see that recently? It reminded me, but there was that back and forth Jordan Dikembe had where Dikembe's like, you've never dunked on me. And then the next time they played each other, Jordan dunked on him and did the finger.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Good shit.
Steven. Oh, okay, Steven. How about Steven saying, I've blocked plenty of dunks in my playing days.
Really?
But nothing feels better than dunking on someone.
Yeah. Well, I just wouldn't know. I just have never dunked. I can't even dunk. I wasn't even good at dunking in pool basketball, you know?
Yeah. I just need you to rephrase that because you say you can't ever dunk. Yeah, because you would never be able to dunk on a 10-foot.
Oh, I would never. Yeah, I wouldn't be capable of dunking on a 10-foot. Now I couldn't dunk on an 8-foot. And in pool basketball, I was always like nervous and afraid of the edge dunking too. So I can shoot the ball. Pass me the rock. I'm going to shoot the shit out of that thing.
Can you still do it though? You think?
Probably not today.
Yeah.
Maybe in 3 months from now.
Roger View says, I need more De'Aaron Fox chase down blocks this year. How about some more De'Aaron dunks?
I'll take both.
Give me some dunks.
Take it all.
Give me some Malik Monk lobs to De'Aaron. Like their Kentucky days.
Ugh.
Please.
Just, yeah. That's why De'Aaron Fox having a year where it's like, even if he's in the conversation at all as an all-star, just even then you know shit's going right. Like if he's in that conversation. Pray to the basketball gods.
Yeah, I'm putting a little music on while we chat for a few. Yeah, that'd be pretty amazing if he was in the conversation. It'd be fun.
You know, and just side note, because you were talking about me and you were just saying, like, can you shoot anymore? I kind of got sad today when I was at the gym because I was doing bench press and my shoulders started hurting. And I just thought about how lightweight I was lifting. And I was just thinking, I don't think I'll ever be able to play basketball like I was ever again. Like,
yeah, no shit, Morgan.
it just makes it makes me sad. Like for so many years in my 20s, I could play in rec leagues, and like my shoulder wasn't gonna fully come out, or it could slide back in. But now it's like when my shoulder comes out, like it just stays out, and it's just really scary, and it makes me sad because then I can't talk as much shit to people and like back it up. Just a really sad epiphany today.
Yeah, Morgan had an epiphany that she's not going to play at the same level she did when she was playing junior college ball at Sierra Nevada. I mean, Sierra
College.
Sierra College.
And then Pro-Am.
Benjamin says, Mo dunks on Deuce every day on the podcast.
I wish.
All right, let's call cap on this comment. I've had hella chase down blocks. Nothing better than breaking out on an open layup and stopping a guy, says 5'6" Leezy.
Ooh.
Stop it. You are.
I believe it. He's
Leezy,
got that
you
effort.
can't move like you don't move like that. It's
Stop.
okay.
I believe
okay.
it.
No, he doesn't.
If you're determined, you can do it at 5'6".
Has he had a chase down block in his life? Maybe.
Yeah.
But let's not act like he was pinning things against the glass, okay?
So what? He
blocked-
didn't act like he was pinning shit against the glass. Get out of here with that. I got you, Leezy.
Leezy's not chasing down anything.
I'm fast and I have the wingspan. No lie. I believe you. I feel that on so many different levels. I believe you.
Leezy's built like Andre Miller today. I mean, let's.
Don't listen to him, Leezy. Don't listen to him. You are not. Who the hell are you?
Oh my God.
Just tell him to get a haircut. Mo needs one of those metal arm attachments. I'd switch out my arm if it meant I could keep playing basketball at a high level.
We really need to have like a pickup game somewhere with some podcast listeners. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. There's just so many different things.
Oh, I know what I wanted to bring up to you. So last time we did a podcast the other day,
What?
we were talking about Durant giving the whole ultimatum thing that came out. How about Joe Tsai then going on Twitter and dropping like the ultimate, like, hey, I'm the captain now.
Read it.
Our front office and coaching staff have my support. We will make decisions in the best interest of the Brooklyn Nets.
Dude, when his Twitter coming out, putting that out there.
I like it.
I totally dig it. And it doesn't, to me, all it's telling you is like, we have the power upper hand to make the final decision, and you don't ever want to put this in a place where Kevin Durant has to be petty and not show up to training camp and not do certain things. I don't want it to be this weird petty party between these two. But at the same time, everyone should collaborate to make something happen that works for everyone. Yeah. And if that really truly means like Kevin Durant playing this next year in Brooklyn, to him that could mean like I'm wasting a year. To them that could mean, patching things up. I just don't know where they're at.
It's over.
I believe it's over too, but like if it's over, what are you going to do? See Kevin Durant sit out?
He's not sitting out. They're going to trade him. Johnny Dewitt says, heard KD only wants to go to Philly or Boston. Ooh, we got our insider, Johnny Dewitt. No, I think the Philly stuff, I think that's real. I think there was some talk about like, hey, could there be some Kings interest in Tobias Harris? Then KD goes and says, I want out. And I think Philly, because of Morey, is like, well, we got to look into that now. We got to check that out. It's definitely holding some things up around the league. There's no doubt about it. And you still have the Donovan Mitchell thing where I'm like, what is happening? Like, we're at the point where like all these GMs are like, you know what, I'm going to go on vacation for a couple of weeks. Let's circle back in, September 1.
That's not a lot of time to circle back.
Yeah. It's really unfortunate what's happened with Durant in Brooklyn. I don't like it. I don't like that you sign an extension. Then, like what drastically changed? I guess I need more information. What drastically changed in the last like year and a half? You say you're not going to get it. Like an NBA reporter's not going to find some
I'm
stuff
just
out,
I'm just saying I don't think you're gonna get a side of it. you're going to get a side of it. I mean, the way that KD and his team went to Shams right away, being like, this happened. This is what it was said. This is what I put on the plate. Boom. Get rid of the GM and the coach, and we good. And then
I mean, that
Joe
is,
Tsai's like,
but
I got
I
their
just
back.
call BS on that. That's a bullshit thing for Durant to even say.
I agree.
He knows it's not happening. He knows it. He's basically saying, just trade me. That's the only way I'll stay.
Okay.
You know, it's yeah, Morgan.
Don't do it.
No, it's just like, it's such a radical thing. It's just like, oh, no, I'll totally go hang out with that person. I'll do it for $1 million cash right now. It's like, well, okay, so you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not firing Nash and Marks. And now you get to the point, well, should they? Like, if you got that ultimatum, should they be like, look, let's choose Kevin Durant? There's no way. You can't do that. Like,
It's a weird, yeah.
Even if, like, you're kind of like, as an owner, maybe uncertain about Sean Marks' future, that would set such a dangerous precedent. Like, hey, a player can publicly put out there that he gave an ultimatum, and then the owner goes, okay, yes, I'm going to fire my general manager and head coach in August. It's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Let's see here. Aldrin says Celtics trading Jaylen Brown for KD would be a big mistake. He was the best player for them in the finals. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this when that first was rumored, and as someone who really likes Kevin Durant, you weren't that far away from winning it all last year, and you beat Durant in the first round.
Yeah. And I mean, you didn't just beat Durant. It's obviously Durant and a team, but you're right. When Durant's supposed to be the best player in this league, and there was obviously other things going on.
I just don't
with the
think
Nets.
that if you add Durant, if Durant and Tatum, I don't think just having Durant and Tatum on your team makes you a lock to be unbelievably better if you're giving up Jalen, maybe Marcus Smart, and other pieces.
That's it.
I don't see how that makes you drastically better.
That's why with all of these teams, whoever does want to choose to move forward to trade for Kevin Durant, I don't get what your squad is going to look like after you trade everything away. And because it's not just going to be picks, you guys. This isn't the Utah Jazz. You know, this is a situation where the Nets actually want to be better this next year. And they're not going to be better with a whole bunch of picks. So it's a very...
I wonder how pissed off other GMs are at Minnesota right now for giving up all those picks for Gobert. Because now it seems like it's priced out. I would say it's not the same though, right? Because so Durant just signed a new deal.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's a unique situation. And it's a situation I wish we didn't have to talk about, because when you see, it just becomes a power trip, right? And it just becomes this whole thing where you just want to see one of the best players. For the NBA fans, you just want to see one of the best players on the floor play and be a part of a team that is a team. You don't want to just see him with a whole bunch of shit and they're trying to get things done because they have Kevin Durant, but they have him for 4 years. So maybe the next year they'll get more things done. I don't want to see that. I want to see Kevin Durant excel now before it's too late for his career.
Steven says, no lie, the smart move is to fire the trash coach and GM to keep a generational talent like Durant. Yeah, I mean, I just...
What does that say? I think it's the principle of it, though,
does
too.
Does Durant pick the new GM and coach, too? Like, what?
Right.
I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? I mean, I love KD, but Durant's also not exactly a young man anymore. He has shown the ability when he plays to still play at a high level, but he also hasn't played a ton of games the last few years. Like, those are all things you have to factor in. And I don't know. I don't know where the best landing spot is for him. And it's just unfortunate. I think this is Durant's way of throwing something at Brooklyn to encourage him to move on. I think Brooklyn was to a point where it's like, oh, it's KD. He may not want to be here, but he'll be here at the start of camp. But as the weeks have gone on, there's been like hints at, hey, some execs around the league wonder if he'll show up at camp. And then you hear this story and you're like, oh, so maybe this is more serious than we realize. The threat of him maybe not even showing up and playing. And it's like trying to force our hands to make him. You know what I love? Have a stare down. Have a stare down. Who wins that stare down? All right, Kevin. You don't want to play?
I don't like a stare down.
You don't want to play? Don't play. Don't ever play basketball again. We're not trading you. We'll pay you.
I also, and technically you could do that with that power, but then it just, I don't know, it just all seems so icky, right? Like they're putting each other in bad places, but if you are the Nets and you can't repair that relationship, then you should be doing whatever's best for your organization and for your team by getting the most for Kevin Durant. So if Boston was going to be stupid and actually trade away Jaylen Brown within that situation, take Jaylen Brown. Take Jaylen Brown. Like, sure. I don't think Boston should do that at all, but shit, I would take Jaylen Brown in a heartbeat.
Jaylen at his best will never be as good of a player as
But that's
Kevin
not,
Durant
and that's not the point. It is where they're at now, and where in for the Nets,
you would still take right now if you had to pick. You're
Kevin
on the
Durant.
line. You'd take KD over.
Kevin Durant, 100%. But if it's a relationship that can't be repaired, and you can't sit here and tell me like every relationship can be repaired, can it? I mean, like you can't throw more money at it. You can't do certain things. So can it be repaired? And if it can't, do what's best for your organization, for your team to make a winning product.
Why do you think Durant signed the extension? Like, why? Like, he could have just played it out. Like, that's what he's done. And, in Oklahoma City, he was there, became a free agent, left. Did his, 3 seasons in Golden State, became a free agent, left.
I don't know.
Maybe he just felt like it was going to be different. But, if life was that fragile, and maybe he was like, cash in. I don't know.
Yeah, cash in, get the deal. You never know what you're going to be like after this injury, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
And then force your way out later.
Yeah, it seems to be the way that these players want to do things. And I can't be mad at them for it either. Like, there just has to be different rules in place, and hopefully the league can figure that out.
Where do you think he ends up, if you're to predict?
What was the two? It was Boston and who else was
Miami, Toronto gets mentioned.
I don't see, like, even for Toronto, I feel like they're not in this, like, we got to win.
No,
right
but
now.
Masai would do, that's the type of move he would make.
He would.
The thing is, I think he'd be like, yeah, but you're not getting Scotty Barnes.
That's it. And you'd have to give up so many pieces. So then if you did end up with Scotty Barnes and Kevin Durant, where's that going to take your team? And that's the question for so many of these teams, even for Boston. If it was Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, the heartbeat of their team, and so many other players that helped them get to where they were last season. I don't know. Maybe some shit team comes through and...
Yeah, I mean, and if you're Toronto, let's just say you go, okay, fine, we'll give up Scotty Barnes in the deal and what else. But so it's Kevin Durant and who in Toronto?
Right.
Man.
It's tough. It's tough. And that's why, yes, I would have loved to see them be able to repair their relationship with Kevin Durant and continue with this season of like fun basketball for us NBA fans that just want to watch great players play.
Well, guys, it's been fun hanging out. Make sure to check out D-Lo and KC on their channel coming up at noon. We'll have more content, so make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Deuce and Mo podcast. Subscribe, like, thumbs up, all that stuff.
Oh, and if you guys could head over to the Apple Podcasts and write a review for us too. Ooh. It does help with
or Spotify too.
Yeah, Spotify. Anywhere you can write a nice little review for us going into this season. It does help with everything. So thank you.
All right, we love you, but we gots to go.
Have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya.